So I'm really, really excited to have Raquel Roscanan here from UNAM talking to us. Her amazing book, Mapas de Mexico, was really important for us as we're thinking about this topic, thinking about how to plan this topic. And so it's really a delight to have her here. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in history and a PhD in anthropology from UNAM. She completed her postdoctoral research stay at the Institute of Geography at UNAM, has taught Mexican history and the history of cartography at various institutions and universities. Among her work is the book Maps of Mexico, Authors and Contexts, which I now realize is translated here, but Mapas de Mexico. She has published book chapters and articles and reviews related to the cultural area of Mesoamerica, the concept of Aztec space, and the cartography of the New World. She teaches historical geography and culture geography of Mexico in the graduate history program at the National School of Anthropology and History. And recently she collaborated directly with UNAM Boston, a lesser city in the United States, on an initiative aimed at bringing the community closer to the humanities. And I know she does a lot of work at UNAM Chicago, and she, her background in anthropology, I think, really speaks to the kind of interdisciplinary nature of map history and the Nebenthal lectures we have. Anthropology, art history, literature, all represented here, and I'm really excited to hear Raquel. So without further ado, please come on up. You're behind the pillar, so I can't see you.
Thank you, David. Now it's okay? Okay, so first of all, thank you, Newberry Library and her president, Astrida Orl Tantillo, the Nebenthal family, and above all, David Weimer for all your work. Thank you very much. And Emily and all the people that make this event possible. Thank you, Newberry Library. And I will like to say thanks to UNAM Chicago because I came a few years ago and together we were with Newberry Library talking and presenting this beautiful map, Nuremberg map, the first one of Mexico City in 1524. We present this beautiful map you have here. So thanks UNAM Chicago too to make the connection. Okay, let's start. Okay. First of all, these are just some key notes, key points that serves as the basis from which I start. The old map or the ancient map is a cultural object from the past, a historical document. The ancient map requires an interpretative reading and critical analysis where the map serves as the central object of investigation, transforming it into a historical map. In Mexico, there is a tradition not only in the creation of maps, but also in their documentation and preservation. In Mexico, as in the history of cartography in general, there has been a prevailing tendency to consider the ancient map as a reflection of the level of scientific knowledge and the technical progress of a country. In Mexico as well, the interpretative shift from the humanities has allowed, in the last half century, the integration of the social and cultural components into the analysis of the ancient map. So I will divide my presentation in 4 chapters. The Mexican authors that study all maps, the theories and fields from where scholars study ancient maps, the authors in United States, and the different methodologies that has been explored in order to study the ancient maps. Okay, let's start with the Mexican authors who recovered and catalogs ancient maps from 19th century. This is because collecting and preserving cartographic images means that when they are recorded, they are organized in the collective memory, which once archived becomes history. In Mexico, there is a tradition of recovering, cataloging, documenting, and disseminating all maps. Okay, who's Manuel Orozco Iberra? His work represents, this is 19th century, his work represents the first attempt at conservation and organization of all maps. Orozco Iberra recovered, organized, and classified all maps, creating an exhaustive catalog of these documents from all periods and regions without excluding any. That's the important thing. His work consisted of gathering a large number of maps, regardless of their quality or scientific usefulness. Due to the magnitude of his collection, he needed to classify and catalog documents that ranged from maps in hieroglyphics to general charts, ecclesiastical, hydrographic, ethnographic, historical, topographic maps, among others, totally 3,445 maps. There's too many, I cannot speak about all of them, but since the 40s, we have some authors, some scholars acquired maps, emphasized the importance of the documentary collections in the archives, proposed classifications, guided their organization, analyzed some of them using historical and geographical criteria from the 40s. But I'm gonna mention just 3 works. The first one. Okay, it has traditionally been thought that studies of the history of cartographic science begin in the 18th century with the colonial cartography of the Mexican Enlightenment, characterized by development and synthesis of the technical advances achieved. One such scholar is the science historian Elias Trabulce, who approaches in the 80s colonial cartography from a scientific perspective, highlighting advances determined by European science and their integration into European geographic and artistic canons, such as the Mercator projection, general maps, and nautical cartography. In the case of New Spain, especially to address the northwest coast of Spanish America, the theme that Guadalupe talked about this morning. René Acuña, in the 80s, the paintings accompanying the Relaciones Geográficas produced between 1579 and 1585 were paleographed and transcribed by this author in 10 volumes containing 72 paintings that represent the human geography of a moment of historical transition, when the Spanish expanded their administration, transforming indigenous towns. Joaquín Galarza, since the 80s, he conducted a systematized review of the recording and description of all images contained in the files of the General Archive of the Nation, taking form as a catalog in 14 volumes. He thus produced an essay on global classification, reproducing analytical cards of the documents, both pictographic and in Latin characters, in Spanish or various indigenous languages. He developed a method for using the catalog, and in another work, he analyzed problems stemming from lack of equipment in the archives. And last, Miguel León Portilla, from the 80s till the 2000, thank you. He studied the cartography, he studied the cartography of the Jesuits in their missions in the northern New Spain. Also, the universal cartography where Mexican profiles appear in world maps or planispheres. He constructed a history of cartography of all California. In another work, he characterized maps and plans of Mesoamerican tradition and contrasts them with Renaissance European paintings. In another study, he records place names and elements of the Uppsala map. That is a map on the 16th century on the basin of Mexico. But nowadays, the institutions that safeguard all maps are, of course, the General Archive of the Nation, the first one. It preserves more than 300 maps registered in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register, which includes maps, plans, and illustrations from 16th to 18th century. Among them are pictographic maps used by indigenous communities to demonstrate and protect land tenure, which have served as legal tools from the colonial period to the present day. The cartographic collection is called Maps, Plans, and Illustration, which have been digitized and are currently used. Digitized is a very difficult word in English. So digitize, I don't know how. Okay, next institution. National Institution of Anthropology and History and its library holds an important collection of maps and codices spanning from the 16th to the 20th century with a total registered number of 2,235 maps across various collections. Manuel Orozco Iberra Map Library, of course. It has a vast cartographic database formed by more than 100,000 maps and plans classified by collections and geographic regions. This map library includes collections donated by various researchers, highlighting the personal collection of Manuel Orozco Iberra with more than 3,400 historical documents. And finally, the General Agrarian Archive of Mexico. It safeguards an important documentary collection related to the ownership and administration of communal and ejido lands, which includes maps, plans, sketches, and historical illustrations. These maps document restitution, land grants, and expansion of ejidos, as well as administrative and legal processes concerning land tenure from the 19th century. Okay, let's move to the next chapter. These are the theories from and for history of cartography in Mexico and outside Mexico. I will start in Mexico. Then I'm going to talk about some fields that take on account the old map, but not always as the central object of analysis. Just in an indirectly way. Okay, let's start in and from Mexico in a directly way, the way they study maps, all maps. First of all, we have Alfonso Caso in the 40s and the 50s. He develops a theory and methodology for the analysis of all maps. He deciphers glyphs that form boundaries, provides plausible interpretation of historical events and genealogies recorded on the map. He discovered that the glyphs are indicating the names of sites associated with a list of Mixtec rulers, kings and queens. The next one is Joaquín Galarza, over here. He developed a catalog of all known glyphs and its parts through the study of artistic conventions in the traditional indigenous system, where a reading is proposed rather than an interpretation. So he said, first of all, we have to read the system, the written indigenous system. Later we think about interpretation. First of all, we have to read, know how to read them. And finally, again, Miguel León Portilla, he spoke to us about the need to treasure ancient cartography as a country's cultural heritage, because it reflects its scientific and technological development, but also serves as a trace and testimony of history and art, combined with a particular worldview. In some article, he covers the corpus of Mexican cartography produced both inside and outside the country and distinguish the different moments of its creation and evolution. Okay. Now I'm gonna just mention 3 authors outside Mexico, but that study ancient maps in a direct way. Of course, Donald Robertson, his doctoral thesis was a selection of pictorial manuscripts from the colonial central highlands of Mexico. He acknowledged that there was a cultural fusion, enriching both techniques and styles. The work is an iconographic study to understand the meanings of the symbols. In these documents, he defines and separates 2 categories by integrating shapes, lines, color, and composition, those made before the conquest and those of colonial manufacture. He calls them native and Spanish styles and organizes them as closer to one or the other stylistic convention. Okay, the second one is John Brian Harley, not from the United States, but outside of Mexico. So he translated into, this book is important in Mexico because it's translated into Spanish. He defines ancient cartography as a graphic language that must be decoded and that contains rhetorical images susceptible to historical analysis and interpretation, unraveling intentions that can be studied over time, considering the context of the cartographer and the cultural values of society at that moment. And finally, Raymond Crave, it has been translated by UNAM in Spanish, even though it's not very well known yet, but at least we have it in Spanish. His work is a general outline of different regional and federal spatial projects to fix the Mexican territory in the second half of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. He analyzes how spaces were created between official policies and power, in contrast with the inhabitants themselves. So he manages to connect geography, history, and maps. Okay, so now what I thought is to just mention quickly some fields, disciplines that have indirectly influenced the theory of all maps in Mexico. Because cartography can be understood as a social representation. So various layers of meanings are studied, from the most functional to the most symbolic. In fact, all maps have been made available to multiple disciplines. New theoretical postulates in the social sciences continuously develop new interpretative strategies that have been applied to maps to grant them new value and uncover new implicit meanings. First of all, above all, and of course, we have History of Cartography itself by G.R. Crone in the 50s. This work, you may remember, this work has translated into Spanish and published by Fondo de Cultura Económica in 1956. This says something about its potential for distribution and consumption. For example, another example, Leo Bagro hasn't been translated in Spanish, so not just few people know about Leo Bagro. Another example, Imago Mundi, the International Academic Journal, along with the work of David Woodward and Lewis Malcolm, which has extended to non-Western world maps, and the section dedicated to Mesoamerican cartography by Barbara Mundi in 1998, I think is little known in Mexico because it hasn't been translated to Spanish. Another field, epigraphy. I'm not gonna explain each one because we don't have time, but I'm just gonna mention them. Epigraphy, I mean the decipherment and understanding of indigenous written systems. Iconography and iconology. Middle American studies, that means religious, mythology, cosmology. That's very important to maps too. Urbanism and architecture, literature, philology, historical geography and cultural geography. For example, Peter Gerhardt is fundamental in this kind of studies in Mexico. Cultural history and intellectual history, as for example, Serge Grusinski or James Lockhart. And then, from the point of view of studies on state and its political power, Benedict Anderson and other authors. Okay, now let's move to the next chapter, United States authors who study all maps of Mexico. First of all, we have many authors. These are not the total list, of course, but there's so many. From the 40s through the, again, Erika, ¿cómo se dice? 2000. You can see that on the screen. There's many more, of course, but there's just some of them. Okay, first of all, from history, ethnohistory and art history. They are listed here. I need to change, sorry. Okay. Let's see. An example from ethnohistory. Indigenous tradition, pictographies, I don't know where is the accent, have been studied, and the visual analysis of the cartographic document, its iconography, aesthetics, motives, and techniques have been focused on. This is Stephanie Wood, for example, from University of Oregon. She uses digital technologies for the conservation and dissemination of indigenous languages of the Americas. She collaborates on the Americas Research Network. an example. There is some very important books. For example, Elizabeth Hill Boom tells us about indigenous writing systems and its meanings, highlighting the importance of these documents as tools for storytelling, preserving narratives, and exercising political and social power. And it's translated in Spanish. Barbara Mundi, that we are happy that he's with us. She studied the maps of the Relaciones Geográficas, and she calls these representations cartographic histories, which symbolizes the symbiosis between the ecosystem and society. The map is the central object of the study, where it enters a process upon encountering compositions of Western origin, yet elements, resources, aesthetics, and features of indigenous worldview and its pictographic language remain. But we are waiting, and I wish, to be translated to Spanish. This is Beinecke map. This work is a really exceptional collaborative work between US authors with Mexican ones. There's not too many of these. The Beinecke map from 16th century that they studied claims and registered heritage lands. It is a document for litigation. This old map shows the distribution of land and its owners. In each square you can find a glyph. Sorry. It speaks to us of this possession of territorial heritage of the indigenous elite. The social approach is combined with art history and is used to analyze meanings of belonging and identity. From University of Arizona and from the point of view of national history, power and resistance in 19th and 20th centuries, we have this book, Magali Carrera. It's a good example. She studies the use of maps and their practices to manufacture the idea of national unity within a visual culture of society linked to 19th century nationalism. She combines historical events and intellectual history, theoretically based on Harley and Crave. It is not translated. I'm gonna talk right now about the positive point of view, positivist point of view when looking to the map. The 19th century and the 20th century, the map has been studied especially under a technical perspective and at a national scale. Some works underline, for example, the role of the state as an instrument of power. This is just an example. Paula Revert studies the history of the border between the USA and Mexico and the Boundary Commission in 1848. She develops an index of comparative maps. So now we are talking about methodologies and different points of view when going towards the old map. I'm going to talk about the cultural approaches. In Mexico, there is an abundance of work that studies maps with these perspectives because, I think, on the one hand, it is possible to identify certain external elements to all Mexican maps, in their political, economic, and social dimensions. And on the other hand, they challenge us when identifying and defining some intrinsic elements of the map, such as points, lines, as well as scales, symbols, colors, and designs. Of course, the pre-Hispanic codices and the paintings of the colonial period on those of a cartographic type from the 16th and 17th centuries are the most abundant works. In general, their spatial composition is made up of places plus events, and they represent a historical situation. These maps also reflect issues such as property, boundaries, migrations, disputes, relations with other communities, genealogies, religiosity, rituality, and cosmologies. This is a beautiful and my favorite map, Barbara. This is Cuautinchan map. This beautiful map from 14th century that you maybe know. Sorry, it's not working anymore. Lady, would you help me? I don't know what I did. So I'm doing. This map narrates a historical event. Here, just to give an example, the lines of the map are not straight. They are a sequence of dots and are connectors to mark paths, itineraries, movements. They can be called route maps, routes of migration, pilgrimage, or of foundation. There's another kind of methodology. They are all combined, but I just try to separate them to explain them, but they are all combined. There's the ones that emphasize on colonial sources and on the historical context. It is essential not to isolate these maps from their own tradition and local context. They are collated with documentation from the file and with contemporary resources. They are also reviewed and associated with the cultural and political context. This beautiful map, Teozacualco, for example, this indigenous map from 16th century, was analyzed and interpreted by Alfonso Caso in 1949. It is genealogical in type because it contains information about ruling class in relation to their lands. The ruling class are outside the maps, but they are connected with the lands. Another point of view of studying maps is when you emphasize on the decipherment of the characters and the conventions of the cartographic type codices. The maps that are registered institutionally in these electronic pages contain a pictorial system of communication that must be deciphered and are framed within a tradition, a style, or a specific convention. You can find this in internet. This is Galarza's method, the most institutional one. Another point of view, the ones that study and stress on toponymy or nameplates and iconography. This means that the name of the different places on the map in the indigenous languages, because toponymic glyphs have their own logic. For example, this map, Uppsala, has been studied by Leon Portilla and Carmen Aguilera. They work on it. And in the Uppsala map, there's a humanized landscape of 1550 that is recreated. In it, toponyms have been identified, plus activities associated with forests and lakes and lands and animals in the Valley of Mexico are shown. Another approach is when making the distinction of glyphs. The Tlacuilo one, indigenous one, and in the other hand, the Spanish ones or the glosses in Latin or Spanish. Quickly, I show to you. Without color, you can see a church and a fraile. This is Spanish, right? And that's indigenous, of course. So they separate each glyph. These works begin with the paleography of the document and then with the identifying the indigenous glyphs and the glosses in Spanish. They follow the methodological principle of Robertson, who is still taking as a reference. Okay, this is very important because really Mexican scholars do this. They go field work. This is a methodology in ethnohistory and cultural geography. The settlement pattern is studied to see characteristics of indigenous territory, and the other territoriality will be Western criteria, colonial appropriation and occupation. For example, the general objective in this kind of work is to analyze the transformation of process from the indigenous city-state, Altepetl, to indigenous town. Archaeological or architectural remains are located. Visits, these scholars go and visits are made to the towns. Photographs are taken, and the locations shown in the painting are visited, taking into account information provided by local people. So, for example, in this map, from 1579, there are two worldviews interacting. In the top, you see indigenous hunters disseminated on the hills. In the lower part, you see the urban area where Spanish gather indigenous people. Okay, now I shift to art history. That's another approach, but they are combined with the other ones too. Here, art history does aesthetic analysis. The maps of Mercedes and the Relaciones Geográficas are especially important from 16th century or 17th century. These cartographic productions are considered mestizo. The expressive resources of pictographic tradition, stereotypes, and conventions are analyzed. These books had the map as the center of the analysis. The exception is the first one, and the author is around us. Even though it's from art history as well, but with a new and fresh perspective. Monica, that is among us, doesn't do a biography of a Mexican artist, Covarrubias, but his specific map and his facet as cartographer between art and science. Alessandra Russo, for example, she studied how the landscape of 16th century arises, and it is the mestizo circular landscape. She selected 60 maps. Barbara Mundi in the cartographic histories in which a predominant sociopolitical unity of the local community, the Altepetl, is captured. Ana Pulido, the book study how in 16th and 17th century indigenous communities in New Spain used maps, the Mercedes, the tierras, as legal documents to defend, claim, or negotiate land rights. This is just an example with a beautiful map that you preserve here in Newberry Library. This Nuremberg 1524 map of Mexico City, that by the way is here, I just said it, but I wrote it too, speaks to us of a syncretic moment and also about power. It holds a narrative, a worldview, and from the point of view of art history, some authors emphasize on European elements, others on the indigenous elements. Okay, and last, another approach is power, state, social history from 17th century to 20th century. This is a recent publication where the language of power is analyzed, contained in these urban and rural maps of 17th and 18th century. The scholars interpret the meanings and discourses of what the map shows and do not show. An example that Newberry Library holds from 19th century, but you have many, many books, I think 90 books that holds some work of Antonio Garcia Cubas here in Newberry Library. He allowed himself a subjective cultural interpretation where he introduces an ethnographic, national, and Mexican landscape perspective. In the upper corner, you can see images of archaeological sites or colonial buildings or natural valleys or from people from different regions. So from this perspective, some authors relate the map of Garcia Cubas with the era of the liberals of 19th century Mexico, and thus makes the bridge between geography and history and representations. Okay, and that's it, but in the past 15 years, the things have changed, and frameworks in the history of cartography have been varied and dispersed. That's what I noticed. Influenced by trends in the social sciences, which has led to some confusion, I think, about the field. Studies have emerged focusing on design and the cognitive, mental, and visual aspects involved in subjective map mapping. They are called participatory or collaborative cartography. They has gained attention as a counter-hegemonic and pedagogical tool for territory defense. They are called perception cartography too. But that's like another thing, no? Where all people from a local town collaborate to paint their own map with their own perception. And finally, there's an Ibero-American Cartography Symposium, 20 years ago starts. The previous meetings were in Buenos Aires, in Ciudad de México, Sao Paulo, Lisboa, Bogotá, Chile, Quito, Barcelona, Lima, Montevideo. The next meeting The 11th Ibero-American Symposium on the History of Cartography will take place in April 2026 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I want to end sharing with you some final personal comments and reflections. We need to have more events like this. We need more collaborations between international groups to have more events like this. Conservation work is necessary, and above all, digitization using cutting-edge technology in Mexico. 2 historiographies of all Mexican maps were identified. One written and published in the US, and the other written and published in Mexico. It is necessary to identify authors and works, and organize general bibliography of the last 15 years. There is a need to compile a bibliography on contributions made by US authors. It will be desirable to organize the maps of Mexico by disciplinary themes in relation to art, literature, and other fields of visual culture. It is necessary to organize approaches and shared interests comparatively with works on the history of cartography in Iberoamerica and other countries. Thank you. Traductores, por favor.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Questions? You can either text the number or wave at me and wait until I bring the microphone to you. Or just
I'll pose it in Spanish first and then I'll translate.
Sí,
Raquel, muchísimas gracias.
para que lo vaya pensando.
Oh, I see. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Perdón. Mi pregunta, ¿cómo caracterizas la historiografía en inglés y la historiografía en español? Se me hace que estuvo claro que había diferencias, pero al final me pregunto cómo se caracterizaría. So the question is about how one characterizes historiography in Spanish and historiography in English on this subject.
Very difficult question. Because that's what we have to do, no? Work on making the comparison. Okay, en español. Me da la impresión que desde Estados Unidos tiene mucha fuerza la historia del arte, desde la historia del arte.
Sorry, I'm ventriloquizing. Question. My impression is that in the United States, there's much emphasis on the history of cartography from the point of view of the history of art.
Uh-huh. Y México desde el punto de vista de un patrimonio cultural que hay que preservar.
And in Mexico, the point of view is from that of national patrimony that the country has to preserve.
But it's just a general idea. Creo que tenemos que hacer trabajos sistematizados y cruzarlos.
I think we have to do systematic studies and consolidating studies.
Muchísimas gracias. Hubo una duda, me pareció, acerca de algunos de estos nuevos estudios de esa manera más participativa. No sé si podría usted comentar un poquito más acerca de de cómo eso se encaja dentro de esa historiografía que usted ha descrito. I asked if there was a little bit of hesitation or about this particular genre of more recent participatory studies, and I wondered if she could elaborate on where she sees it fitting in the historiography.
Okay, I'm gonna just read what I put here about your question, and then I will explain in Spanish. So, participatory or collaborative cartography has gained attention as a counter-hegemonic and pedagogical tool for territory defense. Perception cartography as well views maps as dynamic resources that help construct identities and challenge dominant narratives, especially concerning local communities and their relationships with the landscapes and resources. Additionally, body mapping has been explored as a feminist activist geography approach, involving the tracing of the body and embodied experience to empower communities through arts-based storytelling and care practices. Empower communities. En México está sucediendo mucho que geógrafos, antropólogos y etnógrafos van a las comunidades de tradición indígena, reúnen a los principales de un pueblo y juntos ellos tienen el conocimiento de su territorio y juntos
In Mexico, there's been a tradition of bringing together geographers, ethnographers, and anthropologists. And I've already forgotten. There's too much
Field
time
work.
going through.
Who go to traditional indigenous communities and bring together and meet with members of the community who actually know the territory there.
Exactly. So they do the representation together.
So
and
it's
the pic-
how do we just translate that?
No, sorry. I'm just trying, but so this is happening in these last 10 years. So the local scale is very important. The empowering of indigenous communities are getting more attention for geographers and anthropologists. That's a good question. En español mejor. ¿Qué pienso? I'm not sure that's a history of cartography because it's not related with history of Mexico. It's just the emergence of the moment. It's a good thing to do, but it's not exactly history of cartography. So it's getting confused. That's what I think.
Thank you. In Latin America, in some places in the Andes, indigenous peoples, when they go to court to fight, land restitution or these very immediate problems, they have tried to use maps from the colonial period, maps from different time periods to empower their claims. The results are varied, but they do that. That's important. So I wonder if in Mexico, maps, or perhaps this project that you're talking about is trying to do something on the lines of using the legal system to empower the community. La pregunta era que en los Andes del sur de América, comunidades indígenas en el pasado, incluso desde el tiempo colonial, han tratado de usar mapas o registros documentales propios de esa época para empoderar sus peticiones, sus quejas, sus pleitos en las cortes para defender sus tierras hoy o en momentos del pasado. La pregunta es si este tipo de proyecto de las otras cartografías
Sí.
¿Está ligado con el sistema legal o de qué manera esto
Sí.
sirve intereses específicos de las comunidades?
Ok.
Gracias.
Ok, en español. Em, sí, en los archivos locales de los pueblos hay mapas que funcionan como documentos legales para defender tierras. Eso sí.
Yes, absolutely. In local archives, there are maps that are used to defend territories.
Pero yo pienso que una cosa es recurrir al mapa antiguo y otra cosa es hacer el mapa actual para defender las tierras. Los dos deben dialogar, creo.
Yes, but I think there's something different between using an old map to defend territory and then making a new one. I think that those two have to be in dialogue.
Gracias. Ay, por allá.
First of all, thank you for a really amazing recorrido of a very long and very varied history or histories and other things of cartography in Mexico. I do notice that there's a very strong focus either on the indigenous cartography of what I would call first empires and then early colonial Mexico, and a hint that there are other cartographies in the national period.
Ujú.
But there are many scales and many communities in Mexico. I would imagine a moment like the Mexican Revolution produced a variety of material. And I'm wondering if we take other kinds of maps into account. You've got the bringing the indigenous forward as part of the community, and you've got the national state. What other kinds of mapping of Mexico are people thinking about? ¿Qué otras formas de mapeo que no son indígenas y que no son del nacionalismo hay? Porque hay esta cartografía en México,
Sí.
es muy, muy amplio y muy rico.
Sí.
¿Y cómo entran estos mapas en estos estudios?
Sí.
Gracias.
Sí, en español. Yo pienso que la geografía regional decayó el interés por la geografía a escala regional porque se estudiaba desde un punto de vista muy económico. Como los ciencias sociales hacen un shift al enfoque cultural, le han dado prioridad a la escala local e
Inter-
indígena.
Interest in local geographies shifted, and por favor, Barbara.
Que, o sea, que la escala regional ya está en desuso porque era un enfoque muy económico y se ha privilegiado el local.
Oh, so there's been privilege put on the local, and because of the national scale is an economic scale.
No, the region. No.
Oh, the regional
The
scale has
region,
been an economic, it's been only of economic interest.
Mhm.
So there's been less of that, of interest in that,
Yes,
the regional.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because it's really economic approach,
And-
and
yeah.
social science don't like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you want to study power,
Yeah.
national scale works very well, right?
Yeah.
And if you want cultural approach, but the thing is that we need to open mind, and power is in 16th century too, and indigenous view is in 20th century too, but that's the way they are studying maps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As if the indigenous doesn't, as
It's
if
like-
the indigenous ends. at a certain
Exactly,
point.
and it's not true.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
Exactly.
So I have a question. We're at the Newberry, which has an amazing access policy for researchers of any stripe. so that one can walk in really off the street and register and see these incredible collections. And I think that access has allowed many people, particularly scholars, to study maps that are not from say, the United States. I'm wondering, could you comment on the kind of access that is available in Mexican institutions? You listed 4 very important Mexican institutions. And how do these institutions deal with that very important question of accessibility?
Sí, yo creo que sí hay fácil acceso
Mm-hmm.
a estas grandes bibliotecas y a consultar estos mapas. Lo que es verdaderamente dramático es que se necesita digitalizar y equipos de digitalización.
I think that there's very easy access in all these institutions, but what really needs to happen are teams of digitalization and programs of digitalization of high quality.
Sí.
I'll ask a question, but only under duress.
Thank you so much for this. I think of maps as really intensely political, and I think about during the Porfiriato, the investment in Mexican cartography. I think about the things happening in the United States at this moment, and even I was on a boat tour, and I was very happy that they referred to it as the Gulf of Mexico when they were talking about it. And so I would love to hear about how cartography and mapping is being talked about in Mexico at this exact moment, and about investment by the government in digitalization. I know Mapoteca is working on it a lot, but I'd love to hear more about that.
I recommend to you a book, this one. Let me find it. This one. Raymond Crave studied exactly this Porfiriatos period and mapping at the end of 19th century and at the beginning of 20th century between the mapping from state and from indigenous and peasants that knows their own territory, and he combines both worldviews. This is an extraordinary book.
Discurso actual, como el Golfo de México y el Golfo de América.
Sí. Actual. Actualmente, mucha ignorancia, poco conocimiento y valor a la cartografía antigua. Es la verdad. Y los políticos no conocen. Hay un enfoque desde el punto de vista de los militares, pero ese es otro tipo de cartografía que no es cultural ni social. Sí.
So today there's a lot of ignorance, a lot of lack of knowledge about cartography, and politicians, they just don't know. There's another kind of cartography, which is military cartography, but that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and not a kind of cultural cartography that Raquel's talking about. Mm-hmm.
So I was told not to stand here when I'm talking to the microphone, because then you can't see me. My selfish question, which is part of my thinking of organizing the whole thing, was I'm interested in how in Europe, we have when we think about kind of the history of cartography in Europe, we have pretty distinct stories about map making in Spain versus England versus France versus, say, the Low Countries. And I'm curious if there's kind of regional specificity to the histories or the kind of stories you find in like people writing in Spanish about map making in Mexico Like, is it different when people are telling a story from the perspective of the smaller towns or from Yucatan or Oaxaca as opposed to, say, Mexico City? If that makes sense. Or from like the nation
Yes,
as a whole.
yes, but I don't want to assume. Can you tell me? But I think I understood.
Sí, en la historia de cartografía de europeo tenemos como historias fijas sobre cartografía alemán, cartografía inglés. Y la pregunta es si entra a México, ¿hay diferentes historias? Si entras a diferentes lugares como localidades, ¿cuál es el punto de vista sobre la historia de cartografía?
Very important question,
Yeah.
very important question, and big answers. Yo diría que hay, Bárbara, I will tell you in Spanish to you.
Sí, sí.
Creo que hay tradiciones cartográficas regionales desde el México prehispánico,
So
¿verdad?
I'd like to say that there are cartographic traditions that date back to the pre-Hispanic period in Mexico, regional
Of
ones.
course.
Yeah,
Por ejemplo, mixtecos, aztecas, zapotecos are really different.
yeah. And so when you Zapotec ones are different from Mixtec, are different from Mexica in the central of Mexico.
Pero al mismo tiempo comparten un universo de elementos de la cosmovisión que sí hay en común.
So, but they do have in common an idea of a cosmovision. Yes, together.
Yes.
All of these different ethnic or language communities do.
And still today, ¿no? Entonces, creo que hay que combinar dos escalas.
Yeah.
La propia cosmovisión local, pero también hay una compartida.
Yeah. So I think that one needs to combine those two scales. There is a local embedded cosmovision, but then a more widely shared one. Yeah.
Raquel, algo que te quería hacer una pregunta que tal vez no tiene una respuesta, pero bueno, quería hacerla, es que lo que queda claro de tu presentación es que lo que hace diferente, ¿no?, a la historia de la cartografía en México, pues es la presencia de mapas indígenas coloniales, ¿no? Y me parece muy interesante que desde el siglo XIX con Orozco y Berra, como que se hace una historia continua entre estos mapas indígenas y los mapas del 18, del 19, del 20, que podríamos poner como en una categoría más europeos, ¿no? Entonces, mi pregunta es ¿cómo crees que esta fuerte presencia de los estudios sobre mapas indígenas también pueden cambiar la mirada sobre los otros mapas como más estilo europeo? Y si es posible, ¿cuáles son las ventajas, las desventajas? I'm going to do it in English, if I remember. That what is clear from your presentation is that what is different from history of cartography in Mexico is the presence of indigenous maps, no? It's different. That is what it makes it different from a history of cartography in Europe or in maybe the United States, no? But how from the beginning of the history of cartography in Mexico in 19th century, they were put together, all these maps, no? Like Orozco y Berra put together the indigenous maps with the more mathematical or European maps. So how does this indigenous maps could or not, or what is the advantages or disadvantages of putting all of these maps together, no? I don't know, it's not like an easy answer, but I just...
No creo, Bárbara, que es una ventaja o desventaja. Simplemente fascina a mexicanos y extranjeros estudiar mapas de tradición indígena. Eso creo, fascina.
I believe that it's not an advantage or a disadvantage. It's simply something that's fascinated both Mexicans and foreigners to study and led them to study Mexican maps.
Pero también es cierto que no es lo único que hay en México. Ya lo vimos con la presentación de Guadalupe y el lugar central que ocupa Nueva España en el mundo global. por
But
ejemplo.
it's not the only kind of cartography. For instance, as Guadalupe's presentation made clear, Nueva España, New Spain, has a great role in kind of global cartography as well.
Ujú. Sí. That's it. Yeah.